My name is Jeremy, and this is Good Beer Matters.
Because we're trying to show beauty, we're trying to show nature through our beer.
If people should be going out and seeking out new experiences that improve their daily lives.
Our mission is to improve how people think about their daily lives and maybe add something to that.
With good beer becoming so ubiquitous, how do we find those out-of-the-way and worth-staying-for-a-while experiences that stand out above the rest? My next guests have a tip or two to share with us when it comes to seeking out a truly great beer destination. A great experience lies at the intersection of craft and culture. These are the stories of us, of great food and the beer that brings it all together. For the craft and culture of beer, this is episode 122 of Good Beer Matters with Karen and Kent Killough of Vista Brewing. Hey, welcome back to the Good Beer Matters podcast. My next guests, I met a little over a year ago. I went down to Austin to speak at a Beer Now conference, and you guys were the just incredible host with your incredible brewery and your incredible grounds. And when you gave your talk about what you created and why you created it, I have to say I was floored. It might have been the beer I was drinking, but it didn't hurt anything either. But what you guys created down in Austin is just absolutely amazing, and we're here to talk about what and why today. But first of all, Kent and Karen, thank you for coming on to the Good Beer Matters podcast today.
Jeremy, we're glad to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. Karen, I'm going to start with you. What is your brewery and where is it?
Sure. We are a ranch brewery, a destination just outside of Austin, Texas, about 20 minutes southwest of Austin. And we have a 21-acre ranch there where we have a brewery, a restaurant, a farm, grounds that people can walk around and explore. Beer garden, live music, really a place that people can come and have an experience with beer, with their family, with their friends, their dog, and just enjoy being outdoors.
Yeah, and of course the brewery is Vista Brewing, which in Spanish is the view. So when you go out and have a beer, then you get a look at this incredible view of this landscape that you guys are situated in. Again, Kent, I'll get back to you, but ladies first. Karen, what is your right? What is your background in beer, and a little bit about you?
Sure, my background is not in beer actually, except for being a consumer, avid consumer. I actually moved to Austin after college to be a computer engineer at Dell, who's based here in Austin, and kind of planted my roots here and met Kent probably about 20 years ago now. And really got into being, foodie scene here in Austin, continued to grow. Craft beer continued to become more and more prominent here in Austin. And I just fell in love with it, the culture and the product.
So, Kent, I'm going to go to you. What is your background in beer?
So, similar to Karen, avid consumer. As you're quickly finding out, Karen and my background are in different parts of the business. So, I was in finance before we started Vista. I was working with very large corporates, flying all over the United States. Was gone 5-6 days a week, every week. And actually we lived in England for a little while. And while we were there, fell in love with this, what we call the British country pub. And so you can picture this beautiful agrarian setting with just a rustic pub set in the middle of it, where it's centered around fine food, great drink, and you go there to just sit and enjoy this beautiful place with family, friends, etc. And at the time, and I guess this was probably 2010 ish. We were living in London, and there was like American craft beer was just coming back to influence British beer culture. And I don't know whether it's distance breeds fondness or what have you, but just this we found this love affair with hops that we just didn't find before because there just wasn't really great prominent hop character, or at least in the way that we enjoy it now in American style craft beer in those beers in England. And we just became like seeking it out, trying to find those like American beers. And I'll never forget the pub just down like my local, there in South Kensington. It's old pub, hundreds of years old. The doors, like you had to kind of like bit down to get in. And I
Yeah.
came in and Sierra Nevada Pale Ale was on tap. And it was like
That
there
was
was
our
this
savior, Sierra Nevada Pale
light,
Ale.
from heaven coming down. I heard the angels. I think I might have like floated over there. And yeah, like that was like our like, just really connected to craft beer. But then as we moved back to Austin, we were gone for 8+ years, and Austin had just exploded. Exploded. Population had grown by, upwards of 20% in the time that we were gone. There were 25 plus million tourists visiting Austin a year. There were 6 new skyscrapers downtown that just weren't there before. I mean, all of the bones were still the same of
Oh
Austin,
my
but then
gosh.
just all of this, everything else that started to happen that made Austin. And you think of the 5 county metroplex. There's 3 of those 5 counties are the top 5 fastest growing counties in the United States for multiple years. Still are. Um,
Yeah.
so roll back to what I originally said. Travel, travel, travel. And Karen had what she didn't mention. She talks about being an engineer, but while we lived in Europe, she was global marketing manager for spirits company. And so putting her, marketing background together with my, finance and strategy background, we're like, okay, we can do something together here in Austin that, it connects to all of this population growth and all of this tourism, and then roll together all the things that we're passionate about, which are, very fine craft beer, very fine farm table food that communes with these people that are in our community and the beauty of the environment that's around us in Central Texas. And then, poof, we just snapped our fingers and Vista existed.
Yeah,
Tongue in cheek. It
absolutely.
was a
Well,
lot of
it's
hard
funny.
work and a really long road to get there.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. But you brought up something I find interesting. It was just that taste of home. I mean, you're in England, you're in London, and you see a Sierra Nevada, and the clouds part angels sang, and there's something to that, a taste of home. That, I mean, here you are, you could have some of the freshest, best cask ale that exists, and you just wanted
We
an
had a lot of
imported,
that.
probably oxidized Sierra
Well,
Nevada, maybe not,
no,
but
actually, as a cicerone, that's a really good point. And at that time in our lives, perhaps our palates were not as developed to be able to pick out hops that were past their prime, oxidation that would happen in that transport. It was really sentiment, what you're like, a connection of, oh, we're separate from friends
ex-
and family and a place. And there's this thing that, it, connects us back, and you all of a sudden, feel comfortable again in that home space. But
yeah,
I
and
still
that's the
say that,
point.
that there was the flavors in that beer were something that our palates were really in tune with before we were, like we were, still really just discovering. I had my gateway Dogfish Head 60 minute, that like brought me into
Yeah,
this new world of Flavortown, and um, that was just a couple of years before that, and the journey was really just getting started. And yeah, I mean, I tried. Don't take this the wrong way. We're all high functioning alcoholics here. But we tried hundreds of real ales. And I'd say hundreds because we travel. We want to be locophiles. You want to go, and particularly now, where beer is best, almost 9 out of 10 times, beer is fresh, best, freshest where it's made.
Yeah.
At this point, it was just, hey, we're experiencing local culture. And every time, whatever Tide's pub that was, they still had two or three rotating taps that, were from Johnny Smith from, around the corner who'd brewed that keg and put it on. And yeah, I heard angels sing when I saw that Sierra Nevada tap.
Well, and decades ago now, my wife and I were in Italy. We were in Rome at the end of our trip, and we had amazing Italian food for 2 weeks. We had gelato every single day. We had wine. We had beer, and it just every day was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. But I think our last night, we ended up going to the Hard Rock Cafe in Rome. And we had an Irish server, so spoke great English, and because my Italian sucked even then, and that was at the height of my trying to speak Italian. And I think I ordered something boring and benign, something probably like a chicken Caesar salad or something like that, and that was one of the most memorable meals of that trip to Italy, just because after 2 weeks I started missing home, and that was a taste of home, and it was such an ordinary, forgettable meal, but it was memorable just because it took me home just for a minute. And there's something to that of these flavors that can transport you. And I think we'll probably come back around to this theme because of what you guys created. But you guys could have just opened up a brewery with taps and tanks and something light, something dark. But you didn't. You created something else entirely. What did you create, and why did you create that?
Sure. We were really reflecting back on that experience we had in England at the country pub and looking to create our own hill country pub. This part of Austin is called the Texas Hill Country, so that's kind of our path. We started looking for land, and really what we wanted to create was an experience more than just selling beer. So our product really is the experience of enjoying that beer in a beautiful place with great food, music, friends, great activities. It's really about that experience in the beer garden more than just the beer.
Well, and you guys created an incredible experience, but it would be easy for someone to come in and say, "Oh, they're just trying to create this place, and the beer's okay." But your beer's incredible. So, how do you manage creating incredible beer and this incredible place at the same time?
Well, I'd say that
I would say we work pretty hard at that.
I'm going to fire that one off to you.
yeah, like to you as with any, if it's done well, it makes it hopefully seem seamless and easy, but it's really a lot of hard work. It's really the people that make that difference. And I think, from our inspiration in this, take a step back in that journey that Karen was talking about, like it started in England, but in our travels across Europe, whether we're in the Alps or in Italy or in wine country, or I don't know, Southeast Asia, you're in a jungle or on the beach, or in Australia, New Zealand, like all the way around the world, we were drawn to this same idea of, well, this agrarian setting, it's beautiful, fine food and drink, and not only seeing how people connect with that and commune with that, but really how we felt about it. This was a much more a leap of this is what we would find personally fulfilling, to create this experience built around something that we love dearly, and connect our home to that. And so now the beer is absolutely central to that. And I'd say, like I started my little soliloquy here with, that it's about the people. And in creating that experience, that really authentic hill country, beautiful experience around the beer, it attracts the top talent that wants to operate in that environment. So our brewmaster now, I
Yeah.
mean, he's one of the top brewers in the country from my perspective, but I guess time will tell. But is an absolute perfectionist, but is very much switched on about this setting and this experience and how people connect with the world of beer through this type of experience over and above just a box that creates this, chemically and biologically sound product that, meets, certain specifications. It's the experience around that
Yeah.
that we, interact with, we interact in, like you said, we, however my presentation came across at Beer Now, it was made better because we were drinking beer at that point. So, carry that concept across, any number of situations that we want to engage with when we're, uh, enjoying ourselves. And so that's Vista.
Well, and yeah, and while we were there, you talked about creating a destination brewery. And granted, if anyone's walking around the streets of Austin, they're not going to find you. You have to get in a car or a bus or an Uber or something,
Yeah.
and you have to make a point to go out and
Yeah.
visit you guys. It's almost like if you want to attain wisdom, you have to climb the mountain. What does it mean to you guys to be a destination?
Well, I think there's probably two sides to that. And Karen, I don't want to talk over you if we're, but I'll try to be quick, and then you reflect in. But two sides to that. The one that we have to basically where you started, is that beer is this box where you create this product that you go and you drink and get a buzz and maybe it tastes good. Yeah, that. But all of these things around it are what we believe people want to connect with. What us, whether we know it or not, once you get off your screen, once you get out of your your office or your cubicle or whatever that is, and get out of your car, these things really connect to you. And over and above, I'm going to have this delicious sudsy drink with some amazing food. And so that idea is something that we believe people will seek out, especially once they've actually connected with it. Now, the flip side of that, the second part, is the perception of distance. And particularly Austinites and San Antonians, and I don't know, we didn't mention that earlier, but San Antonio is the very large metroplex that's immediately south of Austin, and we're kind of nestled in between. We're spoiled, that if it's not 2 minutes away, and I can get there, by hopping on a scooter and getting over there, then it's it might as well be in Mexico. But that's gosh, we're 20 minutes from downtown Austin, 45 minutes from downtown San Antonio, and we're surrounded by thousands of acres of ranch. Like we're a ranch, but it's just beautiful rolling hills. It feels like you're worlds away. And so, from where you started there, it's like, yeah, you're not just going to, trip and, oh, I found it. We were there. You have to be seeking it out.
Yeah.
But reality is there's 3 stoplights between Vista Brewing and downtown Austin. 25 minutes and you're on the other side of downtown Austin. And that's any other major metro, any of your other, gosh, your European listeners, but certainly and Asian listeners, but certainly, gosh, in Manhattan or Chicago or God, LA, 20 minutes, you maybe made it down to the 7-Eleven.
And we do have customers that live very close to us, and they'll pop in for a quick beer. But the majority of our customers are seeking us out, like you said, but they're planning to spend more time to have this experience, to come and see a performance on our stage. And they're choosing to make that trip and spend a little bit longer. We call them, they're the day trippers coming from San Antonio or from Dripping Springs. They're just planning on that. And so, yes, they do have to seek us out, but it's for a different experience than you'll find just popping into a downtown bar or a brewery for a quick beer.
Well, and while you gave that talk, that a wonderful talk, it may have been beer fueled, but we were all beer
It was
fueled,
at
and it was a
9:30,
wonderful
10 in the
experience, which is
morning,
part of it.
so we were just getting started.
Yes, but it was a beer writers conference at a beautiful brewery. So hey, I'm gonna call it what it is.
Inspired.
But you started talking about it was beer
Yeah.
inspired. It was beer inspired. Perfect. You gave this talk you talked about the land, you talked about the heritage, you talked about the sense of place, and within the context of really good beer. I mean, we had your beer, Deschutes was there, Budvar was there, and we got to taste a lot of amazing things, amazing food. Why is it important to add the story of the land and the place and all these different contexts together in order to create this experience?
Wow. Well, that's a broad and deep question, Jeremy. Our idea,
And I'm not even drinking
yeah,
yet. Sorry.
I know, but I like it. This place where we are, and maybe hopefully a little more context will bring this into focus, is at the gateway of the Central Texas viticultural area. So the Central Texas AVA is one of the largest wine regions in the world. It's one of the most visited wine regions in the United States. Millions of people a year come to visit the dozens of wineries that are nestled in the hills between Austin and Fredericksburg. And we are right at the beginning of that trail. Well, the wine world, well, as someone who seeks out wine, you're seeking out the idea of terroir, and the idea that
Yeah.
a bottle of wine captures the soil, the people that tilled that soil, a moment in time that brought all of those minerals into that fruit, and then through the people in that winery turn that into this dandelion wine, like captured thing. And gosh, in beer, we 200 years ago, that was what beer was. If you were visiting a village in Bavaria, you were getting a particular type of beer that was connected to a particular water source that had been brewed with inputs of grains and hops that were available there. It was a picture of what was happening in that community with those people, and what they valued as part of their community. And over the course of prohibition and then pasteurization, refrigeration, all of these things, it's like, well, you know what? We can make this thing, and we can have this ubiquitous product that we can have anywhere, and just define it as beer. It's the exact same thing. And we kind of, particularly as Americans, departed from that idea of beer terroir. And excuse me. And I think part of Karen and my journey in getting to this was, well, how do we get back to that? If we're creating a place that people are going to travel to meet this destination and meet this experience, shouldn't the beer in that experience be reflective of that place in the way that wine is reflective of a place and a time and the people that made it? And that is the genesis of a lot of the beer that we make, particularly. So there are wine barrel aged beers that are very much place and time and highly unique and nuanced around who we are and what we can create with the materials that we have in Central Texas. But then there are great IPAs that even though might be a West Coast style IPA, it's still made with all Texas grains. We built our own public water supply well that pulls water out of one of the oldest water structures in Texas, and that underpins. We all our yeast is from Texas Yeast Labs. That our Texas yeasts, like these are as terroir can be, are what we are as we can be with styles that people are gravitate to. And so I would do the Pepsi challenge with our beers that are in a particular BJCP set. Um, Again, with their peers across the industry from all over the United States, and I'd wager to say that I could pick out our beer every single time, and not it's very good. Yes, we strive for extraordinarily high quality, but the flavor and the mouthfeel in that beer is different because it's made with what we make it with, even if it's the same malt bill, the same all of the same technicals that go into brewing that product. But I know the mouthfeel and the additional bitterness that happens as the result of the minerality in our water. I know I sense now how that affects hop yields and like what actually comes through in the beer. And over time, I think our consumer, the people that our guests that are regular guests, whether it's a Schwarzbier, an IPA, or a lambic style or Brett ale that we make, they're going to go, I know that's Vista beer because I feel these things that come from our land and our people and the inputs that we use. That was a really long answer, but hopefully that got to the vein of it.
Well, it frankly it was a lengthy open-ended question too, but it is interesting because the terroir of beer is much more subtle than wine, to the point where some people don't believe in the terroir of beer, but that pale ale. I mean, given the exact same recipe, that pale ale from Sierra Nevada is going to be different from Vista Brewing, from Dogfish Head, from anything. No matter if everything else were equal, and it just takes time spent at a brewery to kind of get that house flavor ingrained into your brain to recognize it when you taste it out of context.
I hadn't really,
and it's just kind of a fun, interesting thing.
I think and maybe you can explore this more with the the context that you have and the discussions that you're going to have over the course of this podcast. But I think there might be a pseudo fallacy that developed in American craft beer, and you think of the American craft beer revolution in the 90s into the 2000s, in that we could take beer styles from anywhere and basically build up that beer based on perfectly refined H2O, whatever the water I'm getting out of this municipal tap, I've stripped everything out of it to make H2O. And then I add salts in it to make it similar pH and hardness to Burton-on-Trent or whatever Bavaria or whatever beer style that you're purporting to make, and then buy malts that are grown in by Wireman and hops that are grown in I can replicate anything from anywhere in the world because I can buy those ingredients and I can change the chemistry of my water and my wort and my my finishing beer product, that I can mimic it. But the reality is what you just said. It's not just the palate and the perspective of the beer maker. It's literally like they are limited or enhanced by what they have available to them in the moment. And there was a period of time, and maybe we're still in that period of time, where what we can strip everything out and then rebuild it to make these things. Actually, there's probably a lot fewer of your listeners and a lot fewer of the brewers that you're talking to that are trying to remake these highly traditional styles. Or maybe it's that'll become a fad again, that we go back to these traditional styles, but it's trying to make these things new. Anyways, along the parallel.
Well, and there was when I lived in Arizona, there was a brewery that tried to make a Czech style lager, and the flavor was there, but they just ran that hard water through a filter. and it was
We're not
not
gonna.
a soft. And
We can't do that. My
and
water's
just
hard as
and on
diamonds.
first sip,
There's
it
no
was
way
just
around
like,
that. You know.
yeah, and I'm sorry, it just didn't. They did not pull it off. Despite the best intentions, it didn't pull it off, and oh well. But you bring up a point. I'm going to swing this back around to Karen. But the setup for this question is, once upon a time, the internet did not exist. I know that's going to shock some people listening to this and watching this, but once upon a time, cell phones were like, futuristic space technology. And when people actually traveled around the world, they would take all these pictures. They would come back, they would turn them into slides, and they would bring their friends and family over, and they would give a slideshow and tell stories. And that was the event of we just went to Disney World, we just went to Hard Rock Cafe in Rome or London, England, and they'd come back and they'd show these pictures and they would tell these stories. But these days, those experiences are kind of commoditized because now the internet reveals all, warts and all. But I kind of see signs of us going back somewhat to trying to carve out this beer tourism, where if I want to taste a truly Bavarian Dunkel, then I'm going to go to Bavaria. And even though Kent and Karen at Vista Brewing are going to brew an amazing Dunkel, it's not going to be the same. Have you seen any of those signs? Have you seen that people are trying to carve out these unique, authentic, and that's the key word there, authentic experiences? And how does Vista play into that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I know our personal experience and our customers' experience, and I see people traveling beer tourism a lot to us, like I said earlier, seeking out that day trip, that experience, or they listen to your podcast and now want to come visit us. We see people from all over the world,
Hint, hint.
and yeah, hint, hint, check out our website. Um, I I think maybe
Yeah.
the subtle change now with your slideshow being instantaneous now on Facebook, the reason for their visit is not seeking out that specific beer style or flavor of beer, but more they're seeking the unique experience that a brewery in Bavaria or a brewery in Czech Republic or in Driftwood, Texas can give them. So maybe it's not traveling for a specific beer style, but it's more the beer culture experience that people are seeking out nowadays. Beers can be replicated, like Kent was saying. You could replicate the water profile, buy grains from Germany, buy hops from Germany, and make that beer, but you can't create a German beer experience truly in the United States.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and true story, you guys might get a kick out of this. But some of your beers that I brought home with me, I saved them. Well, they're all gone now, but I tried to save them for a special occasion, and I ended up last year we went to Mexico for Christmas, and I had your Flanders Red on Christmas Day. And while I was drinking it, I was thinking, one, I'm having a Texas beer in Mexico, but it's Belgian inspired, and it was a kind of a surreal experience. But I remember thinking, wow, this is incredible. But the classic, of course, is Rochefort, and just kind of thinking about, well, it doesn't taste like. I'm sorry, not Rochefort.
Yeah, it's a different beer.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I
Rodenbach.
Thank you. I'm completely blanking. I'm thinking Rochefort, Rodenbach, Grand Cru. Rewind. Let's pretend that never happened, but it's on air now. Yeah,
we knew what you were saying.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking it is very much like Rodenbach Grand Cru, but they're different because one is from Belgium, one is from Texas, but it's the same beer style. But they're both amazing, and just it tells a different story of you're honoring that tradition, but with your own take. You're honoring that trip to Belgium, but in your
Exactly.
own in your own way, your own. It's like that was basically you went on a trip to Belgium and you came back and you showed me the slides through the flavor of that beer, and it was like, and
Oh,
it was kind of
I
like that.
love that.
It was kind of like that
Yes.
experience of like, this was amazing. We want to share it with you, and we're going to do the best we can to get you where we were. Does that
Mm,
make sense?
mm.
Exactly.
I love
We
that
say
idea
we're
of
honoring
speaking
tradition
through
with
the
these
beer.
styles.
Mm,
Yeah,
Hmm.
mm.
yeah.
With fingerprints from what happens in Central Texas, and that beer, the Flanders Fields, that beer in particular, water played a very large role in the minerality and the bitterness around the those like dark fruit flavors that you get. It's punchy acidity, but it's not like overly, like it's not super low pH. Like and then it spent a lot of time in French oak,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
that
yeah. You could taste the
tannin
tannins. Oh, it was delightful.
just rounded it out. It's like almost like there's like pecan, it's like pecan fig, all of these things happening in that beer that were happen. It's the yes, this is a Belgian, very traditional Belgian style of beer and process of the beer making, but the pieces of it that we use that are our water and particularly the wood. There were it's all Texas malts and all of those things too, but the water and the wood in that beer in particular just made it. Yeah, like you said, we brought a
Yeah.
slideshow home from Belgium in this beer,
Yeah.
but it's here in Central Texas.
But you're not trying to be Rodenbach. You're trying to honor Rodenbach. You're trying to be Vista. And so people will come and
Hmm.
eventually,
Exactly.
and eventually people will come and taste your Flanders Red and go, wow, this is amazing. And then they'll go try Rodenbach Grand Cru and go, oh, that's good too. you know, and it, and
That'll be the day.
at some point the slideshow will reverse and people will like experience yours first, and then they'll have Rodenbach like, oh yeah, this is also good, but God, you got to try that one from Vista, and it's creating this destination, this experience that is equal to the inspiration. And I
Jeremy,
think that's the incredible thing of what you guys have created.
well, gosh, Jeremy, thank you
That's
very
flattering.
much for that very, very deep compliment.
Well,
And
and I'm not trying to blow smoke
obviously
up
we
your
hope
nose.
that that
You guys did create
no,
something cool.
you're a sincere guy. I think you call a spade a spade. So I take
Yep.
it. I take it. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully one day we get there. Like we're obviously tiny now in this space that is in a really crowded, noisy space of people trying to figure out what is craft beer and what does it mean in craft beer in Central Texas, let alone craft beer in the United States, etc. But I think the idea, the concept of what you hit on there. Like we've seen it happen in beer, like really in really big ways. Like just on our experience in England, when we, all of the many of the styles that we drink now, or some of the styles that we drink now are British st- beers. The pale ale, the IPA,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our
Yep.
porters, the brown ales. All of these originated on that little island, but they were totally different beers when they started. And if you go there and you have that cask conditioned bitter, that's the birthplace, that is the original DNA of the pale ale, of our but the American pale ale might as well be on another planet. It's a totally different beer. The IPA still holds the same name. That would the whole, and I won't go into the history of that beer, but that was originated as a British beer that the American palate just completely blew up into a whole nother dimension of hops. Well, while we were there in the early 2010s, meantime there were like two or three British breweries or English breweries that were brewing American style craft beer. And so they would make uh, American style IPA, and it was really controversial at the time. I think it was BrewDog was also just getting started then,
Mm.
and it was really controversial. And then roll forward, Karen and I went back for a class reunion. Actually, I think it was a baby moon to kind of roll together, um, like 5 or 6 years later. And every pub you went into had 20 or 30 taps on their wall. They were locally made beers, but they were all, you had hazies and, kettle sours and all of these things that, like, that wave had come back. So what you say about that, someone taking that slideshow back to Rodenbach one day, gosh, I humbly hope that, we'd ever get to that place. But that's exactly the same thing that happened for this whole categories of beer that, England fertilized the world with, and then, this proliferation of small brewers in the United States completely took in their own direction, and then went back to England with it and took over England with those same styles of beer.
Yeah, I think it's a funny phenomenon that occurred that, it's just the wave is just going back and forth. It's almost like a cyclical beer tennis match where it's coming this way, then it's coming that way. When you guys think about the value of a beer experience, even thinking about what people have to do to be open to receiving this experience, to have this experience, what comes to mind? Karen, what comes to your mind when you think about create or the value of that experience and what people need to do to actually be open to it?
Excuse me. To be open to a new beer experience, I think they need to,
Well, not necessarily new, but just just be open to a good experience.
yeah. I think first of all, trying new things. Some people get stuck in, I only drink blonde ale, and that's all they ever drink. But being open to trying something that might challenge their palate or be something they've never tried before, they might be pleasantly surprised and discover something new that they like. I think we see a lot of that being a destination where people are spending more time. They're open to talking to our bartenders, to exploring new flavors. I always People ask me, "What's your best selling beer?" And I always tell them it's a flight. Um, and that's not true at every
The
brewery,
answer is the
but
answer
we're
is
a place
yes.
where people spend more time. We do a flight of four 4-ounce beers, and people start with that and explore some new flavors. And I think that is what will give people a really good beer culture experience is trying something new.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
now Karen answered that really well and gave me time to think about it. So hopefully I have a composed thought. But when you, I think there's in my mind there's two sides to that recommendation or that frame of mind. And first is back to those 2000 aughts and 2010s. There was a lot of pretentiousness in our beer experience, and that if you were going to be a connoisseur, you were one of the beer geeks, that you had a very set level of expectation of quaffability and the pedigree of what it was that you were drinking. Like, you had your
Hmm.
white whale that you were out hunting, and
Yes.
it was intimidating. Um, I hope that as a beer community, we've largely gotten past that ego about it, and that more and more people, and actually, I'm going to say it stronger than that. I don't hope. We are seeing, and we believe, as like what we are is a symbol that we are past that part of beer culture, in that people are not intimidated and should not be intimidated by the experiences that they are seeking out in the beer world. That there is not, a level of achievement that you have to get to before you can enjoy certain things or be worthy of. Nah, that is our brand pillars of our company. We believe, that there is So it's like we coined in one of those pillars, approachable premium, in that what we do is a very elevated space. It's very connected to the wine world and this, luxury element, but it's surrounded by this rustic, Texas, hill country, these contrasts. But you could come on Thursday and have a burger and beer special for $15, which should be highly approachable in any market. It's not, you're not going to McDonald's, but this is a 21-day dry-aged beef that was raised on our spent grain, and a beer that has all of those things in it that we've already talked about for $15 is an extremely approachable thing. But then, we've hosted Outstanding in the Field, and $250 a plate, paired with, these highly nuanced, highly complex wine barrel-aged beers. But you know what? You don't have to spend $250 to have that experience. You can come and have that flight and get the Barrel Master's flight, and you can get that range from a Flanders to a single strain Brett to a lambic style, to these things that are really complex, palate challenging, and not in a like you got to work out to get there. You can think about the layers of flavor and texture and nuance that goes into these beers, and it's just part of it. And you can approach that as a complete novice or as a highly advanced, beer nerd or beer geek or whatever we're calling ourselves these days. Or if I can even include myself in that echelon. So there's that. It should be approachable. And the other part of it is that people should be going out and seeking out new experiences that improve their daily lives. And that is part of our, actually, it's not part. It is exactly our mission. I could pull up our mission, vision, and values, framework and slide about Vista right now. And our mission is not to brew the best beer in the world. It's not to brew with the most terroir or the things that we've been talking about. It's not to make the finest experience that you have. Our mission is to influence the way that people live their daily lives. And as a traveling beer consumer, this is what led us to here, is that we traveled and we experienced these things that moved us all over the world, all around the United States, all around Texas. And it's how do we capture that here so that sometimes there's small moves, sometimes they're big. Sometimes we have epiphanies like we did at Beer Now, where, we really change people's, perspectives. But on the whole, it's getting access to these fine, some of them just fine tasting beers, some of them these fine, more complex, nuanced beers, very fine farm table food that was sourced, whether it's from our farm or somewhere that's very, very local to it. Great live music, really friendly, wonderful people that make you feel good about learning these things that you didn't learn before, not ever make you feel awkward about not knowing. All of that stuff goes together. That you can do that every day in your house. Now we are in the heyday of the beer consumer, or certainly in America we are, where you can go to your local beer cellar. For us, it's HEB. It's just the grocery store. There are 1,000 SKUs of beer, and many of those are really excellent. And so you should just never accept okay, ever again. And now, as the being open, and how do you have these new experiences as the beer consumer? You're just going out to explore and have a good time, and lo and behold, I know what I like now, or I know that I like this, and it enhances your next experience that you're going to have, because you sought that out, and now you can level up and enjoy life even more.
And I find that interesting because it's not just going to the store, grabbing a 6-pack, and hey, let's go have an experience. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more involved to it. It's a multifaceted.
It's a different kind
open
of
to being aware. Yeah. Well, and I love how we could come to your brewery and just have a light beer because it's hot. Here we're recording this in January, and Karen's already bragging that it's 75 degrees where you guys are, and I'm just thinking, damn. But so maybe we come and just have a blonde ale and that burger and move on because we're going to go see a movie. I don't know why they come out to Hill Country when they're going to go see a movie, but let's just say we do.
Man. Yeah.
That's a great plan, and what a great day spent. That sounds like a perfect Sunday. or we could come and have some of those. You call them challenging beers. I call them thinking beers or pensive beers, where it's just like, it's not going to scratch that immediate itch, but it's going to keep you thinking about this thing for, well, in my case, well over a year. So these are things that kind of add to that experience, whichever experience you're in the mood for, and so I love that. Which kind of leads me to, before we start kind of the closeout questions, I've got one last big heady question. Karen, I'm going to come over to you, but if your brewery were a form of express, like an art, or like art, if it were a form of expression, a form of communication, what is it you guys are trying to say?
Oh, you're asking tough questions today.
Yeah.
Um,
I love how you start with Karen too.
yeah. Give
Well,
Kent time to
she's the
think of.
well, just because she's the marketing director, and you went last. But so Karen. I'm sorry.
Great.
I'm throwing all the fastballs your way. And next time, a mental note: we need to have this in the evening over some beers, and then this
There
this
we
will just
go.
be way better. But my bad. I apologize for my bad
I've
behavior.
only had one cup of coffee today so far. Um, what are we trying to
You're
say?
gonna need three more after this.
If we were painting a picture, I think relating it to art is really fitting, because we're trying to show beauty, we're trying to show nature, um, through our property, through our beer, through our food. We're trying to connect people with nature and kind of get them off their phone and uh, get them out of their head and just enjoy being there. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to achieve is, like Kent said, our mission is to improve how people think about their daily lives and maybe add something to that. Maybe adding, that new beer style they tried in the flight, or, they taste this tomato that came from our garden 300 yards away, and it changes how they think about tomatoes. And they're not going to go buy a tomato in the middle of January from halfway around the world because they don't taste very good. So we're, and the beef in that burger, same story. It comes from 3 miles away. It ate our spent grain. They're gonna maybe think the next time they go to the grocery store and choose to buy local beef. We're trying to influence a little more than just that 2, 3 hours they spend at our property. Maybe they'll, go home and think about it. We're not going to change everybody's buying patterns or change their life in a giant way, but the little changes that we um, can help people think about something new. I don't know if that answers the question, but
I'm so no,
Yeah.
that's
no.
really
In
part of
fact, I
our
was just going to
mission.
say I'm so glad I asked you first. I'm so glad I asked you first because that was perfect. It was eloquent. Do you want to add anything to that, Kent?
Well, just tactically answering your question, I think we're weaving a tapestry. That
Mm,
it's one of those things where you see this scene, and there every time you go and you experience it, there's different layers that you didn't maybe capture the time before, because it's complex, because it's integrated, because all of these things together in that beautiful place are working together to so that we can achieve that mission. And so, yeah, another way to say it is that there's many layers to the onion, and each time at it, you're peeling a layer back. But in the art
yeah,
Yeah, I
frame,
like that.
it's a rich tapestry.
Yeah, maybe the
yeah.
first
Well,
visit.
no,
Sorry,
go ahead, Karen.
maybe on your first visit, you don't take a walk outside of the beer garden, but the next time you walk all the way back and see our garden, our apiary. I was just out there with our oldest son yesterday checking on our bees. That's my second, third, fourth job title, beekeeper. But maybe you discover, you want to get into beekeeping, or you taste the honey in one of our beers that came from our property, and that kind of changes the way you're thinking about, that aspect of the food you eat. That's the next layer of the
And I
tapestry.
love that. And well, and just hopefully, if we are open to an experience then maybe we go there, we have a beer, and maybe we forget what beer we had, but maybe we remember the time there. Maybe we remember how it made us feel, and maybe we keep thinking about it long after we've gone, and maybe that's just enough of a nudge to affect the trajectory of the rest of our lives, to be a little bit more mindful and considerate of what we want in our lives, what we tolerate in our lives. I'm getting extremely woo-woo right now, but that's the idea, isn't
That's
it?
it. Yes, totally is. And Jeremy,
Yeah.
I like this vein of thought of the frame of mind of the beer traveler, or of how do we inspire new experiences? Because I think ingrained in our humanity is the desire for comfort, stability, certainty. Um, I feel good because I have a better understanding of everything that's around me, and so therefore I can be comfortable and have this good time. And then that breeds the same experience over and over again. And to be what I think you were getting at in the last couple of questions with this is, how do we inspire the beer traveler, or the just our fellow human beings, to have different experiences? And I hope that at Vista, and in this conversation, we've talked about really lofty, complicated things that come together to make an experience. But if you actually come over, it feels very natural. It's not like you just I don't know. I find myself, people say that I'm very outgoing and whatever, but I feel like I'm really like introverted. Like I want to like stay comfortable. Like I get nervous when, we're going to go to this new place and we're going to talk to people that we've never talked to before, and oh man, I don't know how that's going to be. But we've had enough of good outcomes from that situation that I'm okay with going and doing it. Well, when you're just going out for your own enjoyment, I think a lot of times people gravitate to my safe space, and that breeds just kind of a cookie cutter of, I've done this, the TGI Friday mentality. I'm comfortable with that frosty marg, and therefore that's what I'm going for. When at Vista, we aspire to create all of this beautiful experience, but it's totally approachable and easy to access, that when you show up, you're like, wow, oh wow, that was easy. I didn't need to feel uncomfortable or nervous about it, and I got exposed to all of these wonderful new things that, now I'm going to go and look for that somewhere else and feel more comfortable with doing that. I don't know, Jeremy, you just turned that light bulb on
Yeah.
in my mind, and that's really what we want to happen, because that's what Karen and I, like, our vision was built around all of these experiences that changed the trajectory of our lives, and we pulled the ones that we were most passionate about into this experience around that beer. Well, and hopefully that's what we achieve.
Yeah. Well, and I feel the same way. That's why I have this podcast, and that's why I wanted you guys onto the podcast. But you guys have given me so much of your time. I'm gonna go through some of my closeout questions, and I'm gonna hopefully we'll go through these pretty quick, but they are a little bit heady. Tomorrow, both of you, the rest of the world has voted. The two of you get to be the king and queen of the entire beer world for one day. What's one thing you would change?
Oh my.
I would make people drink stouts year round, not just in the winter.
Could they be
One of my
chocolate? Could they be
favorite
tropical
styles.
stouts? Because then I'm on board. Love it. How about you,
Yeah,
Kent?
any stout.
I um I don't
Yeah.
know if a king or queen could do this, but I just want I I want people, the general beer consuming public, to care about what it is that they're consuming. And that sounds really aspirational and fluffy and all of, but there was a period of time, the pre um, beer geek era that we talked about earlier, the whale hunting era, where like that all came around because people really cared deeply about finding high quality, very local, very independent products that they connected with because it was delicious, but also because they felt kinship and connection with the people and the place that they were consuming it in. And I think that very much is still a part of who we are, but this whole thing has expanded so much, 8,000 breweries in the United States, and the consumer is just overwhelmed with all of these things that I don't have to care, and I just kind of fall into these experiences. And oh yeah, that's great, but it's no. I would hearken us back to that idea of caring about and seeking out highest quality, locally
Yeah.
produced, connected to the consumer. And obviously, that's a self-serving desire. But I believe in the long run, for us as beer consumers, if we don't do that, then we're the everything that we've achieved now is going to slowly erode into kind of homogenous experiences that are gobbled up by larger corporations that are able to produce them for us and spread them around to just every corner of our communities. So yes, care about what it is you're drinking.
So at the end of this day of being king and queen, we are going to the royal us are going to send the royal you anywhere on Earth. Could be separate, could be together. We're going to send you, yes, get the wave. We're going to send you anywhere you want to go on Earth for a meal and a drink in gratitude. Where are you going to go and what are you going to have?
Oh, the bucket list of travel.
Oh man,
We haven't
all right,
traveled
I've got
extensively in several years.
yeah. So toad in the hole at the Trout in Oxfordshire, um, or pad thai on the beach in Thailand. Both of those definitely
Hmm.
with my queen. Yeah.
So Kent chose places we've
And
been
what would you?
already.
Oh,
Great.
going back to
I
my
would,
comfortable experiences. Already been there before. Got me.
I would say we together go somewhere new, that we have not traveled together yet. We traveled a lot of places. I would say I would choose either Hawaii, which I have never been, and I
Mm,
just hear a lot about the culture and the beer and the food there. So that would be my choice.
yeah, I can attest. Hawaii is definitely worth putting on the list.
Yeah, well, that'll be like Vista
So
4 or 5. We'll have one. We need a
yeah,
tasting room in Maui. That's
yeah, absolutely. And I know a guy who will help you put it all together.
ah perfect. Started here
Uh,
first.
yeah, right. And I know we're running long. Forgive me. I'm going to try and get through this quick. But why? This is the pivotal question. Why does good beer matter so much to you guys?
I think it's central to these experiences that we've been talking about over the course of this. We talk in the general term about experience, that us as Vista are like that is our mission to create these experiences that change people's lives. But without good beer at the center of that, it falls apart. Um, I the central tenet of our vision is that we can achieve our mission because of all of these things working together. That the whole is worth more than.
Okay.
I,
Well, we'll we lost His Royal Highness, but Her Royal Highness is still here. So I'm going to ask these final questions for you. Where can people go to learn more about Vista Brewing and plan a trip there?
sure. I can check out our website, vistabrewingtx.com, or more importantly, our Instagram. That's where you'll find all the latest. And that's actually me behind that Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect. And I'll have a link in the show notes. But any final words of wisdom or calls to action for anyone listening?
I just want to thank you for having us on, and I just love the name of your podcast, Good Beer Matters. And I think,
Thank
as
you.
Kent was saying, uh, you can't have those experiences without good beer.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for saying so. Thank you very much for coming on. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of what you guys have created and your beer, and I hope I hope hordes of people come visit you and get the Vista Brewing experience, because it's incredible. I'm so grateful for the time I got
Thank
to
you for
spend there.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to see you here again in person someday.
Yeah, someday I'll keep you guys posted. Otherwise, thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work that both of you are doing and all of your staff are doing. It's exceptional.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
There are beers perfect for everyday drinking, and then there are some that are better reserved for special occasions. The same goes for breweries. Some are great for any occasion, and some are better for truly memorable experiences. If you haven't yet experienced the difference, then I urge you to put Vista Brewing south of Austin, Texas on your beer bucket list. In the next episode, we head to the American Pacific Northwest to better understand why traditional English beer still matters. I'm on a virtual tour of the craft and culture of beer around the globe. I've put Good Beer Matters on video so I can take you along for the ride. If you know a person, a place, or a beer story that needs to be told, let me know. Meanwhile, grab a beer, hang out with friends, and let your world open up. Thank you for listening. Cheers.